Warning. This episode includes unsettling themes of supernatural terror, family endangerment, explicit gore, and intense psychological horror. Listener discretion is advised. Now, welcome back, my little creeps and crawlies. I'm your host, Mr.Cemetery, the caretaker of screams, the landlord of lost souls. And tonight, your real estate agent from hell. Our tale tonight takes us to a quiet little house on the edge of nowhere. Cheap, creaky, and freshly soaked in trauma. A single mother, a sweet little boy, and one very unwanted roommate hiding in the walls. They say every house has a past, but this one, it has a hunger. And trust me, Mr. Buttons doesn't just want to play, he wants to stay. So if you like your horror hot, your blood fresh, and your childhood trauma extra crispy, make sure you subscribe, turn on all those notifications, and smash that like button like it's crawling towards you on all fours. Now then, on to tonight's story. And I call this one Mr. Buttons. Enjoy. Then came the first odd sign. Claw marks on the baseboard, sharp and unexplained. She checked for rats but found nothing. A wet rotting smell seeped through the vents at night, but it was gone by morning. One afternoon, Mason started staring at the walls, grinning faintly, and said,
Mr. Buttons likes it here. I told him he can stay and protect me.
Uneasy, Danielle asked.
Who's Mr. Buttons?
Mason, slowly tilting his head, replied,
He's my friend. He's over there.
Pointing to a corner, she glanced over, noticing a coat rack, and she sighed.
That's just your imagination.
Later that night, now exhausted, Danielle fell asleep, only to jolt awake, dazed and confused, to Mason's screams from his room.
Why did you have to hurt my mommy?
She felt warm blood running down her arm and saw fresh scratches etched into her skin. Shaken by the cuts on her arm and Mason's words, Danielle staggered to Mason's room, her breath shallow. The door slowly creaked open, and she gasped. Bloody handprints streaked across the carpet from his bed to the attic ladder. Her scream caught in her throat as she glanced at the door, too scared to climb. Hearing a faint clatter from downstairs, she bolted down and found Mason in the kitchen, eating cereal, eerily calm. But his pajamas were soaked in blood, his fingers caked red.
What happened?
She demanded, her voice shaking.
I was playing.
He said, shrugging.
With who?
Her voice cracked.
Mr. Buttons.
He smiled faintly. Danielle, noticing the blood soaking through his pajamas, she pulled him close and lifted his shirt. Deep symmetrical claw marks raked his chest. Terrified, she dragged him to the ER. Doctors grilled her about self-harm, their tone cutting. She lied through her gritted teeth, denying everything, and brought him home. Still shaken by the blood, determined to end the talk of Mr. Buttons, she locked the attic door. At 2:43 a.m., the smoke alarm wailed. Thick smoke choked the hallway, heavy with the stench of burned flesh. Mason's door was locked. In her room, the mirror reflected words scrawled in blood. "You're gonna die." Danielle gagged, fumbling for 911. The phone crackled. Static, no signal. The house wouldn't let her call. She grabbed Mason, wrapping him in a blanket, and ran for the door. It jammed shut as she tried. The windows, they were frozen shut. Then, he vanished from her arms. The blanket hitting the floor, wet with blood. The house pulsed, locking her in. Danielle bolted to Mason's room, her heart pounding, where a trail of blood led from his bed to the attic ladder. In the dim light, she saw a torn blanket, streaked with red. Faint giggle rasped from above, sending a chill down her spine.
Mason!
She cried, pressing her hands to the wall.
I'm here!
His voice mumbled, distant and warped. The wall near the ladder split, and a figure emerged, tall and sinewy, its skin molded gray like rotting wood. Its limbs twisted with jagged claws that dripped black ooze. Its face was a nightmare of jagged teeth,
eyes glowing a sulphurous yellow, and a tongue that withered like a serpent. It hissed, slumping back in the shadows, leaving a blood trail. Mason's voice followed, weak from the attic.
He hurt you, 'cause I couldn't stop him.
Terrified, Danielle grabbed the fire poker. The house's pulse throbbed in her ears, drawing her up the ladder. The air grew thick with rot, flies buzzing around her. And at the top, she found Mason, huddled in the corner, his clothes torn, scratches crisscrossing his arms, his eyes hollow but alive.
Mason!
She rushed to him.
It's too late.
He whispered.
He wants you now.
She turned. Mr. Buttons loomed, his face now a grotesque parody of her ex-husband, his sharp jawline stretched into a lipless maul. His brown eyes were replaced by hollow sockets, leaking pus. His grin, a gash of needle-like teeth. She swung the poker, gashing its side, but its claws raked her shoulder. Staggering, she collapsed, blood pooling beneath her, as the attic fell silent. Danielle woke on the attic floor, bloodied and dazed, the air thick with rot. Moonlight barely pierced the darkness, casting a jagged shadow across the room. Mr. Buttons loomed, his claws clicking. Mason cowered nearby, terrified but alive, scratches marking his arm. It lunged at her. Danielle rolled aside, pain flaring from the claw rakes on her shoulder. She grabbed the fireplace poker again, swinging it wildly. The iron crunched into its side, black blood spraying. It screeched, slashing her legs, tearing flesh. She stabbed it again, and again, and again, driving it back, shielding Mason with her body.
Stay behind me.
She gasped, blood dripping from her leg. Mason whimpered, his eyes wide. The creature circled, its limbs clicking, skin slapping wetly. She swung, connecting with its arms, another spray of black ooze, another howl. But it lunged towards her, its claws raking her back, shredding her skin.
Mommy! Mommy!
Mason cried, clutching her arm. It charged, claws raking her chest. She screamed, thrusting the poker into its neck. It thrashed, pinning her down, teeth snapping near her face. Blood choked her cries as it tore into her neck. With a final wet tear of its claws, it ripped her throat out. Mason's screams echoed as she collapsed, lifeless, blood soaking the floor beside him. Mason stumbled back, his eyes locked onto his mother's mangled body, her throat now a gaping wound. Mr. Buttons loomed over him, claws dripping.
You called me your friend.
It rasped.
But our injection fed my rage. Now you're mine.
As the creature lunged, Mason staggered back in a panic, tripping over his mom's lifeless body, and slammed into the wall. Sobbing uncontrollably, the creature pounced, pinning him. Claws sliced his arms as he fought, kicking and screaming.
Mommy!
He wailed, staring at her body. Mr. Buttons laughed, a wet gargle sound, then plunged his claws into Mason's chest. Blood sprayed, bones snapped. His scream turned to gurgles as it tore out his heart, devouring it with a sickening crunch. The attic fell silent except for the creature's chewing in its claws as it dragged the remains into the pulsing walls. The house groaned, its frame shuddering as it swallowed the carnage. A low chuckle echoed, wet and deep, as Mr. Buttons disappeared into the darkness. Inside the walls, its claws tapped rhythmically, hunger stirring anew. The old brick house stood quiet and patient, its hunger waiting for the next family.
Mr. Buttons clawed his way through their lives, proving some houses have a killer lease agreement. When you move into a new hunt, better check the fine print, or you might end up bleeding regret. If this story ripped your nerves raw, share this episode with your friends. Let's make their skin crawl too. Next time, tune in for a therapy session that unearths a basement full of dark truths. Will she untangle her past? Or is she the horror humming her own downfall? You don't want to miss it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell us what gave you the chills. And until next time, remember, always check the attic for unwanted guests, or you'll be carved into someone's nightmare.